name's Amanda Pua Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and I am here with Predictive Astrologer Anne Ortelee for your weekly astrological weather. Anne, tell us what's going on. Actually, can we start with the scale? Because I kind of like that. Like, from an intensity perspective, at a scale of 0 to 10. And I know our scale has gotten way different than it used to be.
Yeah.
Right? Like a 0 to a 10. But tell us in terms of intensity what you'd give this week.
8.5 to 9.
Okay, so it's another big one.
It's a big one, yeah, big one.
All right, talk to us. What's going on?
And the reason is last week we had the nodes change. They've been for 1.5 years in Cancer Cap, and they moved into Gemini Sag. So Gemini Sag is a much more frantic energy, much more, and so we're working with that backdrop. And so Sagittarius is what's our wisdom, Gemini is what's our local knowledge, what are we encouraged to do, or how are we encouraged. So that shift's going to last for 1.5 years. And it kind of changes our focus from structure and safety to, okay, how do I do things? And, I'm trying to figure it out and I don't know, and I'm getting conflicting information because Gemini Sag is the student teacher. So it's going to ask all of us to go into our student teacher model. Like, am I the student, or do I actually know more about that than you do? And so it's about coming into more understanding rather than the security structure. It also allows for more opinions, not necessarily right ones. So I was talking to somebody last week and they said, well, you have to sit in the place of trust for yourself, which of course in this crazy world, we have to kind of go into that center place you talk about and say, calm down. And the other thing we have this week, Saturn stationed just the other day on Sunday, but we have 4 other planets stationing this week. So 1 is a big deal, 4 is a lot. So Saturn stationed, Jupiter is stationing, Athena is stationing, and Venus is stationing. So we have 4 planets stopping and going, uh-oh, and they're all going back to February, right? So they're going to go back to February, the degree they were on in February, and until September, October. And then they stop again, and then they go back through the stuff we just went through from February to now. So we have this 1, 2, 3. The other thing that's happening is Mercury's going into Gemini. He's been in Taurus. So he's getting much more chatty this week. And Mars, more importantly, Mars is going into Pisces. Now, when Mercury was in Pisces all spring, that was when the virus spread quietly. Now he's going into Mars. Mars is going into Pisces. So it's going to be a more aggressive energy of spreading and moving it around, because Mars is going to take action. So we're watching this week to really watch everything shift. And it's going to be very confusing for folks about what, because all this planets stopping and starting and moving backwards and everybody getting a little frantic. So it's really important with the crazy for everybody to go and do their Saturn, which we're talking about, because Saturn will ground you. Whatever your Saturn is by sign and placement is where you find grounding. It's also where fear comes from, what you're afraid of. So we can look at your Saturn and see what you're afraid of. And he just stopped on Sunday and goes backwards. And we know he and Jupiter and Pluto hanging out together is what's causing this, well, not causing it, but symbolically reflecting it as above, so below. So now that he goes back, and Saturn's going back to the degree he was at on February 3rd, Jupiter's going back to the degree he was on February 18th. Pluto, a week or 2 ago, stationed, and he's going back to the January 3rd date, and Venus is going back to the date she was on April 9th. And Athena is going back to February 8th. And Athena is, of course, our strategic thinking. Right? So she's hanging out with these Capricorn planets, guiding us. If we're strategic and we're thinking, and she's saying to you, okay, pay attention, pay attention. So with all these planets going back to the beginning of February or January, in the case of Pluto, January 3rd, which is really when I first heard about the virus, we're like, okay, we're back to the future again. You remember that movie? With Michael Fox, where he went back and he changed something, and then he went back to the future, and it was like, uh-oh, and then he went back to the past. So we're going back. But with all of it this week, very turbulent. And and also now with the moon, with Mercury, the nodes in Mercury, and Mercury sign and Jupiter sign, people are going to be like, oh, much more commotion, argument, discussion, in the marketplace or in the world than this last part where we've been told, now you stay home. Now we're going to be like, now you go out. And we go, is it safe to go out? What do I feel? Uh-oh, that doesn't look safe. And again, our Saturn will guide us if we listen to him and we do the work of our Saturn. And, we have that podcast out there and we're going to do live questions on Friday. But our job is to kind of think about, okay, what? So this is an intense week, but it's really intense because everybody's going to feel like I'm stopped. What do I do? Right? And it's big. Yeah. The one that worries me is Mars going into Pisces on Wednesday, because that's what's the right word for it? That's that was Mercury in Pisces all fall, which we didn't, or all spring, we didn't know it was the virus spreading, but now we know that Mercury spreads the virus. And a couple of weeks ago when we said, watch the news to see the fighting, and that was when they were showing up with their arms and their weapons and stuff. Everybody open up, go wild. Now we're in Mars and Pisces, which is like, okay, open up and go wild, but like what's going to happen with this kind of float? And if you've ever had a water leak in your house, the water, you open up underneath your kitchen sink and the water comes out, and like everything is kind of permeated. So it's a very permeable energy this week. And people are going to feel really emotional. And they're also going to feel a little bit like confused because there's no guidance. And the overarching purpose of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction for all of us is to own our own authority and to be our own leader. And we look at the leaders and we go, okay, I think you're a good leader. I don't know that I trust you as a leader. What does my inner leader say to do? Again, doing your Saturn. So it's a really big week, and it's a very pivotal week. We'll see a lot of things shift and change, and we'll be like, wow, it's like a fun house. There used to be a state fair I would go to, and there was a fun house that was, and you'd go in and there'd be the mirror where you were like this, and the mirror, and then your head was really big, and it's going to feel a little like a fun house mirror. But again, use your tools of, okay, let me center, let me ground, let me go to my moon to nurture myself, let me go to my Saturn to do my work. Check in with all the planets in your chart. Remember the planets, if you look at the number with the little degree sign, that's how old they are. So if you have a 3-year-old Mercury and your mind is going a little crazy, you want to kind of sit down with your little 3-year-old. If you got a 15-year-old Mars and he's like, I can't take this anymore, and he's just slamming the door like a teenager does, then you kind of go, okay, let's figure that out. Like you want to kind of think of all your planets getting very activated, because when the planets stop, everybody goes like, it's like slamming the brakes on in a car, and you go, And we know they don't stop. They appear to stop. But on Earth, we feel it as that kind of a little whiplash, maybe the best way to think of it. So not bad whiplash, but like cosmic whiplash. Yeah.
Cosmic whiplash.
So that's the theme for the week. Cosmic whiplash.
Cosmic whiplash. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. That was a lot of information. I know I did a dump.
It was perfect. And, we talked last week about all of this retrograde energy and so it's like we're embarking on the second wave of the 3 waves, right? And this wave is kind of like a backwards wave, which is weird. Probably not the best.
We're riding our bike backwards. Right?
There you go. Now we're riding our bike backwards. Now, so the importance of going back to February and January it's almost like a recapitulation process of, okay, what did I learn? What have I let go of? Who have I become through this process? Where am I getting stuck? All these review exercises that we can do in this time so that we can, again, take the lessons from that first period of time and take the gold with us and let go of the things that we don't need anymore.
Right.
And it was really interesting. So our team, the Astrology Hub team, we meet on Tuesdays after this broadcast, and we decided to come together and do that together. That process of we're gonna share with each other. What did you learn? How did you grow? What did you let go of? And so I went back to February and the best way for me to do that is to look at my calendar or look at my pictures, because then I can go, oh, that's what we were doing. Those are the meetings we were having. This is the things that we were focused on. It's astounding. I mean, it's like a different life. It feels so long ago. And so much has changed. And you heard about COVID on January 3rd, but I certainly didn't. I don't even know when I heard about it, but it was long, much further down the road than that. And even if I heard about it, I wasn't concerned.
You
about
weren't
it.
paying attention to it. Yeah.
No, it wasn't anything that was, I was worried about. So it's a really interesting process. And I highly encourage all of you to do that, because you're going to be able to reflect, another reword, all these rewords.
Any word with a re is the reorganize, revise, reflect, redo, revisit, all are rewords.
Yes. And there's a lot of them. I actually looked it up. I looked it up online. I was like, rewords. There's really a lot of rewords. But recapitulate. So go back and really look at where you were, what you were thinking about, what was important, and how things have shifted, and how your values have shifted, and all these different things. So it's a really powerful process.
Yeah.
And with this community, it's going to enable us to really grow through this process, transform through this process, and become different on the other side of it, versus just kind of getting tossed around in all the whitewash of what's happening, which is a lot, right?
Which is a lot, yeah. And it's also because it is so, that's the right word for it, because it is so turbulent, it's understanding that, you have to kind of go into it with, like if there's really rough waves, they put up warning signs and the lifeguard whistles when you go too out. So you have to be your own lifeguard on this. You have to whistle and say, I don't really think that's a plan for me, but okay, I'm up for this, right? With the idea being, with Mercury and Gemini, mixed messages and not necessarily being told the truth, plus Venus out of bounds, she's like very optimistic, but she also isn't following the rules. And when you're out of bounds, it can either be really good, it's a home run, or it's a line drive into the stands, right? And of course, with Venus out of bounds with this, we just in New York have now 100 cases where the kids get it. But they get a weird thing. They get a Kawasaki disease where they turn all red and flame up, right? So, the kids are clear. And the governor came in the other day and said, nah, I got some bad news. We thought the kids were clear, but we just found out, no, they're not. And so it watch for in your own life where a story you thought was going to go some way doesn't. And it now goes backwards. Because everybody's like, I don't know. And retrogrades, some people have direct planets, some people have retrogrades. If you have a little R after your planet, a little R sometimes with an X at the bottom of the leg, that means that planet is retrograde. So if you have a retrograde planet, when these planets go retrograde and you have a retrograde Jupiter, say, this is when you're going to be really busy. If you have a direct Jupiter, then you're going to be back. So the other day, they sent all the doctors home that they'd flown in, right? Because New York's on the decline. So they just sent them all home they returned retrograde to where they were. So it's really watching the energy. And then I find it very comforting when you notice, that's okay, I know what that is. Okay, that is, because people talk their charts. We're talking about a return to work, a return to quote unquote normal, or return to the new normal, right? And so just pay attention. You'll see it all over, and you go, return to normal. They're not telling us things. Mars and Pisces, they're hiding the news. They're hiding the information like they did like the Mercury hid stuff. So we want to kind of be aware of our own space and just know when you don't know, it's okay to not know. And then to say, do I trust that? And if you trust it, say, I trust you. And that's a commitment, right? I trust you. And if you go, I don't trust you, listen to that little space, because trust is the word here for part of how we navigate what's true for us. Do you trust it? And it isn't an external authority, it's your own internal authority. Because if you go out and you get COVID, hey, that's in your chart. You were supposed to get it. I've been reading people and they say, I think I had it. And I go, February 22nd. They're like, yep. Now a couple mothers wrote, can you tell the Kawasaki? And I'm like, I don't have the data on that. But once you get used to noticing it, you go, okay, that's it. We got it. But if you're supposed to get it, that's part of your path. If you're supposed to do something, it'll be in your chart. So what is your purpose in this pandemic? Are you supposed to be a first responder? Are you supposed to be opening your store up and trying to figure out how to navigate the new thing? Are you supposed to still be staying at home? What is your role? What is your work in the world? What is your Saturn in the world? What are you here to do now? What is this Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter conjunction asking you to do in your life, and why? Yeah.
And Anne, there's the sort of the external role, but then there's also the internal, like who are you becoming through this process? And
we're still the little black cookie thing. We haven't hatched.
Exactly. We all know we're still goo. So
we're all goo. We haven't hatched yet with the wings, you know.
And this idea of being okay with I don't know is it's really hard for us humans to do. But Adam Gainsbourg is one of the teachers at Astrology Hub often. And he has a whole exercise that he has our community do around I don't know, because there's something about it that is extraordinarily liberating. When you just practice, like if you find your head kind of doing the thing where it's trying to figure everything out and who do I trust and what should I do, and it's like, well, I don't know, and just sit in that and see how it feels, and watch it sort of open you up to be able to find that inner authority. Right. But Anne, what you said, that I don't know that I've heard you say it so distinctly before, that the invitation of the whole Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, Capricorn is to own our own authority. Like in the end, this whole entire thing is own your own authority, that you would like bubble it down,
Net.
Wow.
Net. Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, 3 nets. Own your own authority, understand your own wisdom, and understand your transformational power in the world.
Wow. And so part of that process is to recognize where we're giving our authority away.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is it's in my recapitulation process, I've been going back to 2017 to that great American eclipse time. And there is a storyline for me in which I had given my authority. I had put someone like really high up on a pedestal, kind of like, you can do no wrong. Like I trust everything you say. You're an icon for me, or even like a guru, but I would have never said that. And then to have that come crumbling down, and the devastation of that, just to realize the person was human. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like the person was. So any place where we're putting people on pedestal and giving our authority away, I say that this retrograde process would be a really good time to just pay attention to that.
Yes.
Where am I doing that?
Right. And the reason we're looking back at the 217 eclipse is because that runs for 5.5 years. It comes across the line of the country, comes right through the middle of the country. But it also, in that eclipse, the sun was taken out. Right. It was a solar eclipse. So the guru was taken out. The leader was taken out. And, so when you lose your leader, whatever that is, you then go, wow, that got removed. So now who's in charge? Oh, I'm in charge.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay. What am I? Me? I'm in charge.
Right.
When did I grow up to be in charge? And Saturn always makes you go, you're a fraud. That's when you get that little fraud voice, that's your Saturn. And you have to look at your Saturn and say, I'm not a fraud. I know what I'm doing. Oh, all right. So watch what your Saturn is, because he's the one that calls you out as you don't know what you're doing.
Wow.
And so now we're supposed to partner with Saturn, and when we partner with him, we learn we really do know what we're doing. Or if we make a mistake, which happens, we go, I didn't know. We didn't know. There's no blame. We look to blame somebody. Don't blame anybody. We didn't know. But now, like Maya Angelou used to say, now that I know better, I do better. And we do give it to an external. We're taught to do that. But part of the joining of the Saturn Pluto says the authorities collapse, the structures collapse. The things you believed in are going through as more profound a transformation than you are. And so when you look at them and you go, wow, then you figure out your coping mechanism, conspiracy theory, hiding in your house, crying hysterically, going, I'm going to be brave, I'm going to go out. All those are all roles, but are they your true role? Are they your true authority? Are they where you're really sitting in your own solidness of who you are, And in that space is truth. In that space is the gold.
Right.
When you're doing your Saturn. Yeah.
You just said that the external authorities and structures are going through an even bigger transformation than you are.
Yes.
I don't know about all of you out there, but the realization of that, like these structures that we've come to depend on, they are, talk about being in the whitewash. Like they are really in the whitewash. And so you there's this point of realizing, oh my gosh, like you literally can't depend on them. Anybody who's been in that period of tumultuousness in their own life, you know, nobody could depend on you at that time. So it's like, how could we be dependent? Oh, wow. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Really powerful. And so I would say, from what you just said about this week, some of the key strategies we can use as we sit in this place of, I don't know, and we're going to be confused.
Everything stopped.
Yes. And everything stopped. Yeah.
Like when the movie stops and you go, what happened?
What
happened? Right. The movie stopped. Yeah. It stopped. And now we're going back. Film broke.
So you said, look to our moon to nurture us. So look at the moon in your chart.
By sign and placement. So what's your moon, Amanda?
Gemini.
So you talk for comfort.
Yes, in the 4th house.
At home, but also to your team, your pod. So what do? You talk to the group and you go, okay, we're going to talk about this.
Right.
And they're all going to go, all right, Amanda wants to talk because that's how she processes. My moon's in Pisces, saltwater baths. I bought more Epsom salt. I've been soaking my feet. Right. Pisces moon sleeping. I've been ignoring the alarm. I've been I've been waking up when I want to wake up. Right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you also said.
Look at your moon by house and sign. Yeah.
Okay. Moon by house and sign. Do your Saturn by house and sign. Okay. And then use this time to do this review. Wow, you guys. Is everybody feeling this? Like, do you feel, I can definitely relate with this feeling of the movie stopping and just being like, what's going on?
What happens now? Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's it. There's no clear instructions.
Right.
Everybody's got their own, and if you've ever been in a thing where something stops and some of the audience cheers and some of them yells and some of them, there was a really interesting moment, and I encourage people to go see it. Drawing a blank on her name, but she was part of the Parkland shooting. She was Gonzalez. And she stood speaking about the gun protests in Washington. And she said, okay, so we're going to stand here, and you want to watch the clip where she stood there for the full amount of time that they were shooting. And you watch the crowd. She just stood there quietly and watched the crowd, and some of them giggled and some of them protested, some of them cheered, and then they kind of got quiet. And you could feel the unease of the moment of silence and the pause. It was a very profound, the edited clips were like she paused for 90 seconds or whatever it was. But you have to find the real clip and watch her stand there quiet on the stage with thousands of people in front of her going, we're just going to sit here. So you understand how long it was that we were getting shot at. It was very powerful. And that energy, because people then, if you meditate, that little monkey mind you get. So this week is that week for us cosmically, where everything stops. And then what do we do? Where do we go a little? And then just kind of, and you can hear the crowd kind of reacting in different ways because she's just standing there.
Very
powerful, very powerful.
Wow. Well, and most people have a hard time with that pause. Most people try to fill it with something. And that's another invitation is to, how do you feel in the pause, in the silence, in that in-between space where it's not clear what's happening.
And you don't know what to do about it.
Exactly.
I mean, you know what you're being told, but you don't know what to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So we're at an 8.5 to 9.
8.5 to 9, but internally.
Right,
and very much internal, and it'll be reflected in the outside world where you're seeing things kind of, and you have to go, wow, what does that mean? And then just kind of back up and say, let me just observe. This is, when they talk to you in meditation and they tell you to observe, how you try and distract yourself. This is a really good week for that, to learn how you're trying to be distracted and what you actually really believe. So. Yeah, we're going to get through it. So this is when my sister was a basketball coach, she used to make the kids run backwards they'd stand at the thing and they'd run backwards at full speed, because when you're playing basketball, that's what you have to do, run backwards at full speed. So we're going to stop and now we're going to run backwards. And, you can't really look back. You got to just trust and run, right? So, yeah. all in the service of helping us become who we're supposed to be. We're sitting on the cliff of history going, holy cow, what an interesting movie.
God.
What an interesting movie. What an interesting moment in time. Yeah.
Absolutely. I had a few moments of that last week just going, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, to be witnessing this, to be a part of this it's amazing. I'm really like, reflect on that for a moment, because part of us, I think, has gotten used to the changes, but when you like step back and go, oh my God, this is totally and completely unprecedented, like right. Incredible. And we're part of it. We're contributing to it. Our
job is to sit in it and love the people we love and support the people we support and do our work in the world and nurture ourselves. And, if we have leftover, nurture our others. But really, this is a big week for self-nurture. Yeah, self-nurture.
Okay. All right. So take care of yourself, everybody. Hey, I wanted to do just speak directly right now to the podcast listeners, because I wanted to say something to our podcast listeners. We've changed the way we do things. We used to record audio and sometimes use video, but in an effort to get content out in a very timely fashion, we've reversed things. So now we go live with the video, then we take the audio and we use it for the podcast. But I recognize in that process, there's been probably a big shift for those of you who always tune into the Astrology Hub podcast. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and then let you know a little bit why we're doing it. And then also let you know that if you want to tune into the videos, you can. So we go live on Facebook. We repurpose that for Instagram TV. We also repurpose it on YouTube. And eventually, very soon here, we're going to be putting it on our website as well. So that's all coming. But so if you want to tune into some of the videos, if you want to catch the information as timely as possible, there's a few ways to do that. First is to join Facebook or Instagram, Astrology Hub. You can subscribe to the podcast so that your podcast player will alert you as soon as episodes go live. So that's another way. And then you can sign up for the emails where you're going to get the summary, but that's going to be, some things will be delayed with that. But if you want to get an email letting you know about all the special edition content, you can go to astrologyhub.com/podcast, fill in your name and your email, and we'll make sure you get a weekly summary. So lots of different ways to still get the information, but I just wanted to mention that because I feel like I used to speak to you podcast listeners much more directly, and now we have everybody chatting on the videos. So I love all of our video audience as well, but I just wanted to make sure that you're acknowledged. Thank you for continuing to tune in. If you are enjoying the content, please rate and review it on your podcast player. If you have constructive feedback, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have things you'd like to see more of, you can always email us at support@astrologyhub.com. Is that support@astrologyhub.com? And then my final announcement is just that we are doing the live Q&A for Anne's Do Your Saturn Workshop on Friday. So we're going to be doing that live. We're gathering questions from all the students now. So if you want to be a part of that live Q&A and do the workshop before it, you can still join us at astrologyhub.com/Saturn. astrologyhub.com/Saturn.
And you can always do the questions, like come if you didn't get a chance to listen to it, because we'll cover stuff and then you can listen later too.
Yes,
but it's good. It's all good. And this is an example of you repurposing and revising and revisiting your structure.
Yes. Well, and it happened. It was just it was so clear because things have been changing on a daily basis. We wanted to be able to get information out to you as quickly as possible, and the podcast process was just a little bit heavier. Like it was it took more time. So
revise, revisit, redo.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It is such a pleasure to be here with you every week. And thank you for continuing to be our way shower, our guidance system to translate the language of the stars and help us stay in tune with that.
Yeah. So remember, inner work when you get a little overwhelmed with crazy this week. Yeah.
inner work. All right, we're on it.
Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.